Hi there and welcome back to my channel. I'm Elizabeth with Ellie's Handcrafted Jewelry, and you're going to notice that I'm not in my studio today. It's getting a little cold out there, so I have been hanging out inside, but I did want to just say thank you for being here and introduce you to today's tutorial, and also to say thank you so much for all your prayers and thoughts as I've been recovering from sickness this last couple weeks. But today we are going to be working on a new tutorial. It is the woven cuff bracelet that I had promised that you guys had voted for in the poll. So we are going to be working on that today. And if you have any questions about what is involved as far as materials and tools, I have those listed in the description. We'll also go through that in the video. All right, so for tools and materials, what you're going to need is some 18 gauge round wire and some 28 gauge round wire for weaving. For tools, what you're going to need are some chain nose pliers. You're also going to need some round nose pliers. And you'll also need some flush cutters, of course, for cutting your wire. Some additional tools that you're going to need is a small mandrel or a pencil about 6 to 8 millimeters in diameter. You're also going to need something round to wrap your bracelet around. You can do a pill bottle, or you can do something like this tumbler here. I also highly recommend having a spring clamp or a ring clamp on hand. It's really handy in this particular project. And of course, you're going to need a ruler to measure your wire width. And if you're wanting to make this a thicker bracelet, you just up the size to 16 and 26 gauges to make a thicker bracelet. Now to get started, I have 2 segments of wire here that I have cut. If you're looking for the measurements, you can find that down in the description below or list it here. But I'm just going to go ahead and stick this into my clamp, leaving about 1 inch in there. And I'm going to start my weaving. And we're just going to pull our wires apart just a tad so we can fit the weaving wire in there. So here you can see I'm grabbing my 28 gauge weaving wire, pulling some out of this bobbin. And I'm going to begin by wrapping around the bottom base wire, minimum 3 to 5 times to start the weave. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're going to start a figure 8 weave. I'm going to start by wrapping 1 time around the bottom base wire, then bringing from the back up and over and in between the top base wire 1 time, and then again another time, so that's 2 times around the top wire, then down from behind and around the bottom base wire 2 times. And again up and over the top 2, or the top base wire 2 times. And we're just going to repeat this for 5 rotations. So that would be 5 on the bottom and 5 on the top. So once we've finished the 5 rotations, I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers here and gently scrunch down the wire as much as I can before moving on to the next step. But here you can see this is kind of what the pattern is supposed to look like. Now the next step, I'm just going to start wrapping the wire around the bottom base wire, and we're going to do that for a total of 30 times. So counting 3 and 4. And of course, not forgetting to scoot our wire down as we work our way on the coil. And of course, here's how it looks after 30 rotations. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend the wire straight up and the bare wire straight down. You can see that the coiled wire is going over top. And then I'm going to gently curve it with my thumb and curve it downward behind the bare wire. And then I'm going to gently curve the bare wire upward over top of the coiled wire, as you see here. And this is going to require a little bit of finessing, as the wire is going to want to move. But once you get it woven a couple times, as far as that goes, you'll be fine. And then here I'm using my chain nose pliers to bring these wires back parallel to each other so we can go ahead and start weaving another figure 8 weave. And so I'm just going to start by wrapping a couple times around the bottom base wire, start my figure 8 weave again, then bringing up and over top of the top base wire 2 times. And we're just going to do this for a total of 5 rotations before moving on to coiling some more wire. And of course, we're going to scrunch our wire down again, but we're also going to gently twist our wire a little bit as we go, just to kind of help keep them straight, because it's going to want to twist a little bit. We'll do a little bit more finessing at the end, but just kind of help keep it from twisting too much. And now we're going to go ahead and repeat this on the same side, wrapping 30 times around the bottom base wire to create our coil. And here we're just going to do the same thing as we did before, bringing the coiled wire up over top of the bare base wire. And then we're going to curve the wire downward using our thumb, making sure it's going behind the bare wire on the way back down. Using our chain nose pliers and make them parallel again. Are looking for. Again, check the description below to figure out approximate lengths. Now once we reach the end, we're just going to complete it by doing another 5 rotations of the figure 8 weave. And from there we can grab our flush cutters and trim that off, or you can do a pull and twist method to cut off the excess wire. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is grab my chain nose pliers and my flat nose pliers, and I'm going to just very carefully straighten this out. So I'll have one in one hand and one in the other, and gently begin straightening the wires and the twists out. Once I've done that, I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers here, and I'm going to bend this wire off to the side. And then I'm going to wrap it around the bare wire that is there next to it. And then of course cut off the excess wire with my flush cutters. The opposite side. Now at about 1/4 of an inch or 6 or 7 centimeters, I'm going to trim off the last bit of wire here and do the same on the opposite side. And then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and create loops that are facing inward on both sides. Now once I've done that, I'm grabbing a round object. Here I'm just using this Renaissance wax to wrap my bracelet around, as this is just a very small bracelet. But this is how it should look. But if you do have a proper bracelet mandrel, you can also use a rubber mallet to kind of hammer this straight. But of course, what we need for this is a clasp. Now this is optional. You can leave the cuff bracelet as it is, but I'm just going to cut 1.5 inches of wire. This is 18 gauge wire. And this is also optional. You can grab a chasing hammer and a bench block and hammer the end to make a paddled end. Now you can see I'm just laying it here, and then I'm going to do a drop and drag motion to gently spread out the wire. Now here is the paddled end, and from there I'm just going to grab my round nose pliers and gently bend that paddled end upward. Not too far, we don't want it to be a hindrance to our clasp. But then I'm going to grab my my little mandrel here, or you can use a pencil, and we're going to create a hook with it, so just bending it gently over the top. And my end is a little off, so I'm going to grab my pliers here and bend it off to the side a little bit, make sure that's straight. And then grab my my round nose pliers and create a loop at the bottom that we can attach to the bracelet. But here's my little hook clasp. From there I'm going to grab my bench block again and just gently hammer the outside of the hook to make it a little bit stronger. And now all we have to do is attach it to our bracelet, so I'm just going to open up this loop a little bit and attach it to one of the loops on my bracelet, and then close the loop again. And it's pretty easy close. You just push it through the other loop and you have a finished cuff bracelet. And like I said, you can do this with or without the clasp, but this is the finished piece. And I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions at all, go ahead and leave them in the comments section below, as I try to get to them as quickly as I can. I also highly recommend checking out the Artisan Tutorial Vault. I have been working really hard to add some more value to that, as well as giving you access to the guides and other resources that I have available. And so the link to check that out is in the description below. And until next time, happy weaving!